everything has gone to plan. The only thing that we don't know about is the Kawhi thing. Everything else, if you were trying to plan out the Celtics free agency, other than Smart coming to a team-friendly deal that keeps them under control, but somehow allow them to stay under the tax, which seems impossible. So that's out the window. But team-friendly deal, and somehow you're able to keep Kawhi into a location that is not Philadelphia and not with LeBron. I think that's the ideal offseason for Danny Ainge and the Celtics. And we're pretty close to having that possibility.
Well, it almost looks like the Spurs and Kawhi are starting to reconcile and potentially look at a long-term deal. My only thought there is that could be the precursor to a sign and trade that they don't want the details to get out if you're on the other end of that deal, because if it were to fall through and you weren't be able to negotiate the terms that you're looking for, then you'd have a lot of egg on your face as the receiving team with all the names that may have been going out in exchange for Kawhi. With that in mind, Dan Leifschatz reported that the best offer, and really the only significant one to date that the Spurs have received, was, interestingly, and I'm not buying this one either, but Kyrie and a first-round pick for Kawhi was sort of what's rumored. I guess the reason I have a hard time believing that is how many wings can we load up on? You've got to think an Anthony Davis deal would be subsequent to that, because I just don't know how else we make room for everybody on the roster who's talented to get minutes at the 2-3, and even then stretch 4 a little bit more than maybe a lot of fans are comfortable with outside of me.
It's so dumb. Dan Leifschatz is the biggest attention whore at 98.5 The Sports Hub, and that's saying a lot. There's no deal on the table with Kyrie and Kawhi. I don't buy that. It doesn't make any sense.
Why would you rehab a guy like Kyrie just to bring in a guy that there's question marks about next year?
Yes, their deals line up. Yes, there's some issue in terms of ability and where their relative value and the injury. But everybody who seems to know anything about anything, Zach Lowe, probably the most notable in this regard, said it's hogwash. It's nonsense. They've not offered Kyrie. The Celtics are not offering. Jabot said the Celtics are not offering any of their 5 best players. So I'm pretty sure Kyrie's in that mix. I just think Leifschatz is full of shats. And,
reaching,
at
clickbaiting.
Yeah. If that would be a polite way of saying it. This is what he does, and he gets on there, and I think that there is still a deal on the table. I think there is a deal that the Celtics would do for Kawhi. I don't think it's very much, though, because I don't think they're going to let him look at his medicals. They're not going to let him talk to him, and until that happens, the deal isn't going to get any better. And so that's probably why the Spurs would say, well, let's try to talk this out. Let's see if we can, because we're not going to get that mega deal that we want. Apparently the Lakers are willing to wait until next year. How'd that work out for them with Paul George? And the Sixers are looking at the market and say,
worked out with LeBron, didn't work with PG. Yep, no doubt. And, I think the biggest thing, and you and I talked about this before we got on the air, as we're kind of wrapping the show here, but number one, I'd say biggest thing is we don't want Kawhi to wind up in Philadelphia. Now, as it is with all Philadelphia 76ers, their first year with the team, they have to sit out due to injury. So I think we'd be all safe next year.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. Good point. Yeah, we'll just let him sit out and it all works out. I just not. It could happen. I think Philly, anybody could raise their offer at any point, and that would work. The latest stuff about, Kawhi doesn't want to go here. He doesn't want to go to the Clippers. He doesn't want to go to Boston. He doesn't want, where does Kawhi want to go? What does Kawhi want?
That's the concerning part right there, is just his whole general attitude. That's the thing that's been freaking me out a little bit. And it's like, if he only wants to go to LA, then that's it. He should just shut up and wait for the Spurs to either make a deal with their LA, or he plays out the year and signs with them next year. I mean, if he's going to be that limiting in terms of what he wants and is that laser focused, then by all means, dude, execute your strategy.